I just read a review of the Rising Leader podcast and it made me chuckle. Of course, it made me cringe a little bit because I don't like negative reviews, but it also made me chuckle. And the review was that the podcast is excellent. Mark's interviews are great. He's a good interviewer, but the solo podcasts are a little repetitive. And that made me laugh because I'm like a broken record over and over again talking about some of the same themes. I do understand that. But so we're going to do that again today. I was interviewing Jeffrey Roche, who is an executive in the healthcare industry. Brilliant guy. It's next week's podcast. Please give him a listen. So Jeffrey and I was talking about his leadership style, and I was telling him how impressed I am with all the research that I've done with him on the ease with which he leads, the ease with which he has relationships with people, that he's interested in people, and that was different to me. And he said, yeah, he says, you know what gets me really angry about all the leadership books in the world and all the posts on LinkedIn about leadership is that they make leadership so complicated. He says, I'm trying to build leaders in my organizations and they're scared of it because they think it's such a complicated thing. And I love that. That made me feel so good about what it is I'm trying to do here and why I'm so repetitive. I don't think leadership is complicated. I think it's very, very simple. I don't think it's easy. I think it's really, really hard, but I think it's simple. Alyssa Cohn wrote a book called Startup From Startup to Grown Up, which I think is a great illustration of how you go from an entrepreneur, a doer, to someone who leads, right? And the different stages in your organization. Same thing when you climb the ladder and you have more responsibilities and more people to lead in a direction. But this overcomplication of leadership, it's probably one of the reasons why I never wanted to call myself a leadership coach and why it was hard for me to even put the Rising Leader program out, the podcast and the book, to call myself a leadership coach is because I didn't feel like I lived up to all the Navy SEALs and all the people who are teaching this really intricate leadership. They're doing great work. I learned so much from all these people teaching these skills. But again, it becomes intimidating and it makes people not want to step up to leadership. And we need leaders. Most people leave jobs because they have bad leaders. Most leaders fail because they don't get coached and trained, and because it's really tough. So for me, I want to simplify leadership in my definition and in my perspective on it. And for me, leadership is having relationships. It's having honest relationships. Of course, leadership is setting vision, getting resources together, figuring out the resources that you need, the people that you need, and helping build those teams. So there's some skill there on how to do that. But then it's having the honest conversations. If you're enthusiastic about the goal or the vision, then helping other people to be enthusiastic and connected to that goal and vision and mission also, right? So now you have people rowing in the same direction. Then having honest conversations about, well, what your agreements are of the kind of work they're going to be doing, the level of work they're going to be doing, what you need from them, and then having feedback conversations on how close we are to that, right? Co-developing solutions to challenges, listening to people. So listening is a huge part of it, right? Then the biggest piece, and in order to be able to do those things, the biggest piece that I find is doing your own work, figuring out how do you become the most grounded, centered, mature person you can be in the middle of the storm. Because when you're trying to accomplish something, you have outside forces, you have market forces, but you also have people forces. People are insane. We're all insane. And when we get together, we make things tough. So how do you stay grounded and centered in the middle of that storm so that you can have these honest conversations? Does that make sense? Like Jeffrey said the same thing. He said, he says, I'm not usually, I don't just wake up this leader that's easy and in relationship. He says, I need my 3-mile walk, my 3-mile run. I need to get on my bike. I have certain things I need to do. And I interrupted and I said, so you mean lower your allostatic load, lower that level of stress so that you have much more space to let people be people. So how do you get yourself grounded and centered and confident so that you can handle everything that comes at you every day? But don't complicate leadership. Have the conversations you need to have. Be as honest as you can with those conversations. If you make a mistake, admit it, fix it, right? Make amends. If there's problems and challenges, co-create solutions with the people who work for you, and go forth and lead and enjoy the relationships with these people that are going to probably look up to you for the rest of your life. Hope that helps just a little bit. And if you're going to leave a review that I just repeated myself again, go ahead, because I need to hear things over and over and over again to learn them. And sometimes I know things and forget to implement them. And I read a book from someone who's run a multi-billion-dollar corporation about leadership, and I can't apply it to what I'm trying to do. Does that make sense? Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.